Hey guys, I switched around a bit since it's already summer, and yeah, I'm doing this outside now. So I just finished this book called "The Score Takes Care of Itself." Um, yeah, it was a 242-page read, and it's pretty nice. It's kind of like the first time in my life that I had, read a book so consistently that I finished it in a month. And while I'm taking all the APs and all the homework stuff for my finals. So yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know, I'm not that much of a reader, but yeah, pretty awesome journey. Okay, let's go through some thumbnails since the last time we read. There's like a ton of thumbnails. Last time I think we stopped at like 100 or something, like 120 maybe. Okay, we'll start from there. So, I think what he had focused on, first of all, on page 121, was he always had situational planning, which he had like plans for every kind of situation. And yeah, so that ultimately led to him in leading his team to win the Super Bowl because he knew what to do under stress. And then let's see. Also, like he knows how to lead the team. He knows how to teach the team because he has a passion for it. And he always have the plays to he says a play would take shape in my mind, which means he can just imagine all the possibilities of the play because he's so into it. He can draw all the plays with his finger and he subconsciously just do it. Sometimes in conversations he would just like subconsciously point fingers on the table when he's just listening to the conversation. So yeah, that just says a lot about his passion for football and what he does, and that's really important when we focus on something that we just want to do. For instance, if I'm into leading like any kind of group, like for myself it's economics club or the refugee care, I just need to put myself into it, and subconsciously I'll start to think about it. And yeah, don't give like, you want to assimilate yourself into these kind of situations where you're so into something that you just keep on thinking about it all the time. Don't avoid it because this is something you're into. Yeah, he says it is the important thing. Okay, definitely a ton of thumbnails because this book is just a very condensed book of important knowledge from his life. Yeah, and I really respect that. I highlighted a ton of stuff in this book. Most of it is just forcing myself to stay focused while I'm reading it, but yeah, the thumbnails usually are just very memorable stuff. Okay, successful teaching is a two-way process, he says on 122. Oh no, page 124. Just as a pass is not successful until the receiver reaches it. This is really nice because you always want to be reminded of yourself when you're leading a group. It's a two-way process. Your team has to respond to you when you teach stuff, and the knowledge that you give them or influence them with, they'll have to return it by actually putting them into use and stuff. It's just a two-way process, and I really like it. So you want to respect the people you're leading and think about them in their perspectives. Yeah. Okay. He also just convey his sincere enthusiasm and real excitement to the players, which really just gets him far, and letting the players know about his passion and what he want to do in his group. All right. Yeah, a lot of like enthusiasm. He also wanted to offer that. He wanted to let them know that what he was offering was alive, instead of just paper and dead and stressful, you know. So that's something good to know. And he says, when the audience is bored, it's not their fault. And when they're plunged and excited, it's because of you, the person in charge. This is really good to know because you're not trying to force your audience to listen to your words. Instead, you're trying to like intrigue and motivate them. Okay. He says persistence is essential because knowledge is rarely imparted on the first attempt. I feel this all the time in my life because when you start something and you suddenly stop because it's too hard, you give up, that doesn't lead you anywhere. Instead, it's those like little consistency. For instance, me just reading this book, even though like on average I read like only 10 pages a day or less, but I consistently made through, or just, you know, I consistently just, I don't know, fought through it, I guess. Little by little, I finished the book, and I feel really good. And yeah, not to mention I learned a lot of stuff. That's a huge commitment to me. And maybe not a huge commitment, but at least it's some sort of commitment. And yeah, this is really good to note down because when you're leading a group, you want consistent efforts, so they will see and slowly be influenced by you. I hope that makes sense, but yeah. Yeah, with more sophistication comes more control. I feel that in volleyball all the time and stuff. So, also, account for some members of the group being more receptive and ready to learn than others. Some of your teammates will be really willing to learn from you, or people you're leading will be really like motivated to hear from you, but some are not good listeners. And you have to take that into account. And yeah, just accept that range difference between people because they might come from different family backgrounds, they might have different education and stuff. You want to take that into account as a leader. Okay. Okay. He says on page 128 that the process of getting to the top was much more gratifying in many ways than the process of trying to stay on the top. Yeah, finding through and getting to the top is really motivating because you are not at the top yet, but if you want to stay on the top, it's the hard thing. And that comes with persistency and, you know, the resilience when you get on the top. There's definitely less excitement because it's harder to stay on the top than, I don't know, it's like the excitement of getting to the top is more exciting than, trying to stay on the top, if that makes sense. Because when you're trying to fight through and get to the top, you always are motivated to make yourself better. But when you're at the top, you just want to do things the same, or maybe like innovative ways to make yourself, stay the same. I get that, and yeah, you just have to fight through everything. Okay. So I think his son, no, this is the assistant coach of the 49ers. He says Bill raised the self-image of the organization, and players, they know what they have, won, like by the awards that were hanged up in their lockers, and they're recognized. They feel recognized by Bill, and this is really good leadership. And he had a brilliant mind, like says the assistant coach about Bill. He had a brilliant mind coupled with a steel will. Really important. Steel will, which means consistency and persistence. Okay. Yeah. Okay, pretty good. Next one. So, okay, this gets us to part 4. I don't know if I'm repeating all of these, but yeah. Okay. So, So he says on page 142, assigning complete control without any monitoring or of methods or means can allow a separate kingdom to develop, which split your organization into factories. he says this when he mentions, don't cede inordinate power or control to a staff member. So he keeps a lot of things by himself. But he also says in the latter part of the book that he should have, he wished that he delegated his control to other people, because it's so stressful for himself to run the team. He is the best in every aspect of running a football team. For instance, he's good with defense, he's good with offense, he's good with everything. He's good with everything. Sorry. And as the head coach, he could be the best coach in every part of the team. So yeah, but he also says he doesn't want a complete separation of the controlling of the team, because that will separate the team into different factories. I get that. Your team has to stay uniform. You want to always remind yourself to do that. Okay, and also he says be careful of those people that share about their personal belief too much on their team, because that will also create separate factories, which is really sad. That includes religious beliefs. And as a Christian, I think I should preach the word to everyone, but in a team, sometimes it's not the best choice. We'll see. It depends on how you manage to go through it. I think what he meant is that since he also grew up in a Christian background, he might have meant that it is not the best place to share personal belief when you're in the team and during practices or during games, because it's not the right time. Yeah. Also, a really important thing I learned, which I thought is really good, is that you want to celebrate formally instead of ridiculing the other team. You want to be formal with everything, and also you want to celebrate. That's the important part, because you want people to feel the ownership of the team, that they're in it, that all the teammates of yours are a part of this thing, so that they will be more motivated to fight through it with you. Yeah, formally celebrate is really important, because you don't want to look like a clown, and also it's just, it's not smart, and it's not professional, and it's not consistent, I guess. I have a very good sense of this, and I wish I had done it this year for my volleyball club. Definitely celebrate formally, and do everything professionally, because that will always alert yourself in the team that you're a professional team rather than just some random playing recess kind of group or something. Okay. Oh, also he says, I think I mentioned it in maybe the last video, that be careful of applauses, because that will make others determine who you are and your identity. If you listen to other people's judgments, whether good or bad, you're just making them to tell you who you are, and that's not a good, I guess, habit, and it's not a good perspective. Okay. Also, he had a really talented player called Cedric, but Cedric wasn't a team player. Cedric always just, he's always happy when the team wins, but when the team loses, he cannot fight through. He blames on the team, and he doesn't play like a team player. And no matter the talent, Bill still decided to fire him because of this, because of the negative attitudes when the team loses. Because as a team, you want to fight through it together. Anything that separates the team should be excluded from the team. Sorry. And these kind of factors are not good for the team, no matter the talent. Oh, there's a bug in my book. Okay. Let's see. And good players, when you have good players on your team, those positive attitudes and leadership affects all the others. I agree with this so much, because it's the same logic where you want to be with a group of people that are better than you, so you'll push yourself to go higher and go to a better level of performance. I agree with that a lot. And yeah, bringing in like people with leadership and positive attitudes will also encourage and influence others on your team. He says of the example of Ronnie Lott and Joe Montana, of course. I think, yeah. So they affect the team with their leadership. All right. So I'm on page 154. Okay, let's see. Oh, so positive ego does not equal to egotism. Egotism is really bad because egotism can turn really unhealthy. Yeah, you want to stay like professional, and I think egotism is more like personal heroism, which makes your play or the way you play really like selfish. You want to be reminded of you're a part of the team, and your ego should be positive all the time. You don't want it to be like personal heroism. Ego pushes you to be competitive, but egotism is just bad. Let's see. And if you're a leader, you need to control your team to not have egotism. Instead, just have a positive ego. All right. Also, he says how important it is to help or teach or influence the bottom 20% of your team, because not all the players are going to be as receptive as I have said or as professional. There are going to be the bottom 20%, and those 20% he thinks may determine your success, because there might be the people that are discouraging your players, and also discouragement spreads faster or are more invasive. So yeah, okay, again, discouragement are more invasive than positive influence, he says, and he warns us about that. When you have players that are in the bottom, you want to encourage them and say that they're also a part of the team. Even the bench players, they need to be encouraging the team. You don't want them to feel left out, because they will affect your team in all sorts of ways that you cannot imagine. I personally think I could have done better for my club volleyball team in this aspect, in this area, in this the thing I just said, because always there's people that feel left out. I might be one of them too sometimes, because I don't get to be on the court all the time. Could have done better, but yeah, when you're managing a team, care for your 20%, the bottom 20%. I mean, okay. So also, you want to avoid the dance of doom. This means that even when you're like 10 points or 20 points behind in a game, you still want to fight. You still want to fight through it. Don't just dance like you're gonna die. Don't just like let that happen. You want to fight back. So there was this game he were playing. The 49ers were playing against the Saints. I don't know what team is Saints, but they were down like 28-0. But then during the halftime, I guess, yeah, like halftime, Bill kind of encouraged them and said, "Who are you?" And like he said that in the second round, people will find out who are they. Kind of like encouraging words, and say keep on fighting through it. And then they performed 38-25 at 38-35 at the end. It was considered one of the greatest comeback in the history of NFL football, although they didn't win. So yeah, that's really important to just remind yourself to keep on doing, which is to avoid the dance of doom. You want to keep on fighting through it no matter what the situation is, because you might come back, you might also just win. You can always just restart next time, but you don't want to just dance and watch yourself die, basically. So he says, "I not only beat you, I broke your spirit." That is the thing you want to avoid. You don't want the other team thinking, I not only beat you and also broke your spirit. You don't want your spirit to be broken. All right. So yeah, he also sees the talents in people. Oh, also say the 4 word. I believe in you to the people that you cherish or your team, because this will make them feel encouraged, and this might inspire or just motivate them and push them further in their potential. And yeah, when he met Joe Montana, he said, I believe in you. And he saw like he was very special in all the stuff he does. Although he met him at a park when Joe was just throwing the ball, he noticed something different that others had never noticed. And yeah, Joe Montana became one of the greatest players in the football history, I guess. Okay. Also, you might get beat if you are already beaten. You might get beat if you are already beaten. This means that you don't want to over practice. You don't want to over stress yourself from the practices that you're already beaten before you already get beat by a team. You know, you got beaten during your practices, and yeah, that is very important. And yeah, you want to take that wisely. So when you practice, you work as hard as possible. But if you keep on working too hard, there are diminishing returns, and you got to remember that. At some point, you got to start, relax. You got to start work smartly, not harder. And if not, it will cost you a championship, which he mentioned here. Okay. On 167, he says, go beyond the conventional and against popular opinion. This means trusting your own judgment enough to be resourceful, innovative, and imaginative. It means resisting the herd mentality. So yeah, I guess most of the times conventional wisdom might win you something, but I would say almost 80% or 90% of the people are using conventional wisdom. If you really want a success, I think there's a better shot, or it's worth more to fight for, to use your own wisdom, For instance, my journey now, as a literally international student that doesn't have any experience with studying abroad, my parents, I'm literally first gen. My parents never had the journey of, even being out of college or any kind of college life. I think, yeah, my dad didn't even finish middle school, I guess. But yeah, I just need to embrace the journey. So I'm now an athlete that is trying to fight for D3 volleyball at MIT and NYU. NCAA is something that I never thought of, but I really love volleyball. It is definitely not something that international students will do. But yeah, why not? Nobody has done it, so why can't I be the first one to do it? Although there is still a long journey. Well, yeah, just to mention about it and to record it for myself. It's definitely a long journey because of my height, first of all, and my position that I want to play. If I want to play middle blocker on a team for 1 year, it might be innovative and kind of new, or kind of interesting for teams to try out that. But if I want to stay on the team consistently for the next future years, year 2, year 3, it might be tougher because a short middle blocker can be really it's hard to say. So I always have to push myself to go further. That's what I have started doing this year. I think I've been doing a pretty good job because I've been consistently going to the gym, except yesterday. I kind of missed out yesterday. Today I'll go back, alright? After this video, or after the SAT studying today, yeah, I'll go back to the gym, okay? So, alright. Anyway, that went too far. Yes, okay. So, don't always just go for the conventional wisdom. You want to try something out yourself. Yeah. Also, he says, make friends, not enemies. This is very important because enemies are just not good. You'd rather have 100 friends than one enemy, alright? Even though the friendship might not be too strong, but you want to have 100 friends than one enemy. I think that's very obvious. Okay, that was really good to, we simply can't afford to waste resources fighting needless fights. That was something that I thought was really good. Okay. So there was a person he really hated. That person literally ignored him at first, and he belittled him by not giving him a chance to stream on television. But, he still kept himself humble, and he went up to him and still, said, he became good friends with him. He had dinner with him before a game or something. And then that person became one of his best supporters, Bill Walsh. Best supporters of Bill Walsh. That was awesome. That's an awesome and fantastic journey because, sometimes you just don't want to make enemies, you want to make friends. And it gives you surprises sometimes. Okay. Also, he says keep your eye on the ball. Don't isolate yourself from the team. Maintain your high level of professional ethics, and also exhibit an inner toughness to your team. This is very important because you as a leader, you need to affect your team the most. And also, when you don't isolate yourself, you become more combined. Like, no matter the conversation or no matter what they're talking about, you just want to, don't isolate yourself. Have chemistry with them, I guess. You just got to be humble sometimes. And, start with the conversation that he mentioned earlier. It might sound stupid, but what is something? And then you'll start a conversation. There are no dumb questions on your team because all your team members are just precious people because they're willing to work with you, and there won't be any dumb questions or conversations. You guys, at the end of the day, are always just working together. Oh my gosh, I killed a bug on my pant, and his blood is on my pant. That's crazy. No, Jesus. Okay. Also, he says of unconventional mentors. I think it was because of this. I started complimenting and acknowledging how people are unconventional mentors to me on their yearbooks. That is crazy, but I started using this terminology because you always want to learn from others, although they might not just be your teacher or some sort of that. You want to learn from them without them actually sitting down and spending time with you to teach you stuff. You can just simply learn from them. Like me reading this book, you can read books from everyone and learn from them without them actually being a mentor. And by the way, I think this actually inspires me to read because when you read a book, that author, especially when the author is really old, when he wrote it, they are literally telling the truth to you, the most honest way of conversation that you can ever have. It's definitely better than conversations with random people in a random time of the day, because in a book they spend a ton of time to condense it together for you, and they have nothing to hide from because this is just a sincere conversation from them and you. They wanted to give their life, they want to put their life in the books. So books are literally one of the best tools of conversation or just gaining knowledge, information. So I respect that a lot, and I realized that this year, and I feel grateful for that. Thank God he inspired me to read. Thank all of my teachers that pushed me to read. Okay. Oh, wait, what was I just on? I went so off topic, but okay. Okay, so he says before he became a coach for the 49ers, he is already a virtual PhD in coaching and leadership. I will definitely write about this terminology in my college applications. Actually, I will say that although before me even becoming a student athlete in a college, I might say I'm already a PhD in managing all of these things, similar to student athlete, because as an international student I have to take care of myself and all those stuff. This is a really good word. You're already a PhD before you became this position, because you've already experienced so much. He first experienced San Jose State, and then I always forget how to say this. Cincinnati, Bengals, and then like Stanford University, of course, before Cincinnati. All right, next one. You always want to just learn from your like experience. I guess you want to have as much experience as possible. I mean, I've been taking my shots too. I've been trying out a lot of new stuff, like practicing with college people, even though like they're just there for free time, and I have to pay $14 every time to get in. But it's a good fellowship, and I got to work on my stuff. Not to mention, I can sometimes, work in their gym. Yeah, work out in their gym. I mean, okay. Yeah, you also just want to have like direct words when you talk about things. You want to be concise and simple. You want to give effective speeches, and you want to do through your actions. I guess that was the thumbnail page. Okay. So I think this person is like a player on the 49ers. He talks about how Bill pushed him to be perfect, pushed all the teammates to be perfect, although it is not possible, but Bill Walsh inspired them to do it, and yeah, they feel inspired to do it. And also Bill always like doesn't go too far with the pressure. He thinks of good ways to alleviate that kind of pressure. However, if something is wrong, if something is against the standard of performance, the player says, we would get the sharp end of the stick. So you want to maintain your values and how you lead your team without being too stressful sometimes. Okay, so this is part 5. I think this is the last part of the book. I think I finished this today. I don't know, today was like a 40-page reading, I guess. 30-page read. Yeah, I definitely need to keep up with it. Sometimes I just don't have time in my day, but it's fine. Stay consistent through it, alright? Learn from me. Oh, I agree with this so much. So, if we won, Bill says if we won, I cared about how we won. If we lost, I cared about how we lost. So, according to him, there is this terminology called bad football, which means you score on luck, or you score in a very ugly manner. I agree with this so much. Apparently my volleyball club team doesn't agree with me on this. I think as much because, bro, we had so much ugly plays, and I think this should not freaking happen. But I don't know. I didn't convey my idea like enough, I guess. But next year I'll try better. I think there is bad volleyball, even if you like win, even if you score. It's not athletic enough, bro. And it's not real volleyball when you're not athletic, and when you're not actually intimidating the other team. You're not actually winning against the other team. You're not breaking their spirit. So yeah, there is bad football, there is good football, there is bad volleyball and good volleyball. Take that in mind all the time, and expect yourself to perform good volleyball, and expect yourself to perform good football, good leadership, and all these stuff. Perform in the top perfection level. Yeah, every aspect of your standard of performance, man. Okay, page 192. Achieving success in a competitive environment requires solving a very complicated puzzle. This is true in all big-time competition. The winners know how to get more pieces of puzzle in place than the losers. I still regret that those 2 final pieces of the puzzle prevented it from being solved perfectly. Yeah, there are puzzles that he think, even in games that he won, like the championships, he still thought, there could have been better like pieces of puzzle been put into his games. Yeah, which you always have to just remember that good football and good volleyball and all these stuff, you want all the puzzles in place, and you want to remember those and like remind yourself of those puzzles that you could have put together. Okay. Also, you always want an insatiable hunger to capture inspiration. Yeah, stay strong and just fight. Keep on fighting through it. And then he also mentioned like this person called Paul Brown. Although he learned a lot from Cincinnati, but Paul Brown always said to other people literally that Bill Walsh is not the head coach that you want. Literally, Paul Brown, I hate Paul Brown because of this page, but Bill Walsh came back, although the backstabbing of Paul Brown and all these people, he listened to the advice of Tommy Prothro. Take the job because a head coaching position in the Pac-10 is significant for the good of your family and the career and peace of mind. Go to Stanford. This was when he was offered. Oh, actually, Stanford was after Cincinnati. He was offered to go to Stanford University as a head coach, while he was an assistant coach in Cincinnati, and definitely it was like near the end of his career in Cincinnati. But yeah, he took the chance and went to Stanford, and yeah, this was a great decision and stuff. And because he remembered that he was fighting for his family and all these people. And yeah, although there were like all sorts of these annoying and disgusting things, he fought through it. He just fought through it. All right. Also, he cares for his team members. He doesn't only care for his own team and stuff. He's not like Paul Brown that he will like say bad things about this player to other teams and to prevent the loss of his own team. He will actually tell the player to move to another team for their sake. And I think this is really important because this will slowly affect the people that are fighting for you. And also, to counterattack that, sometimes when players might want to go to other teams for really good purposes, you can also just fight back by using like higher offer to that player or things like that. You want to do it like justly, and you want to do it in the right way, so that players will, the players that are gonna stay on your team will fight for you. The players that won't stay on your team are just, they're meant to be, and you will just feel like, you're playing real football or real volleyball. Okay. Let's see. The next page is when you are being oppressive, you are creating a performance-limiting workspace. You need to recognize when it's time to lighten up and let some of the steam pressure vent. This is Bill Walsh, as I said, cared about the working space. He wanted it to be like very good performing, competitive, but also not too stressed out. And he doesn't like oppressive leaders. Instead, he wants people or leaders to, combine with the team. For instance, eating lunch together in the locker room and just having conversations no matter the topic. Okay. Oh, it's almost the end of the book. The last 30 pages, I thought there wasn't really good thumbnails because I get the idea of the book already. I literally understand him as a person now. That connects back to my topic of this reading a book is way better than having random conversations because you actually start to learn about this person's life and all of these stuff. Bro, I don't know how to stress the importance of reading books. Go read books. That's my advice, for life. Okay. Looking back on it, I concluded that there are times when you must stand up for yourself, even if the consequences including being fired. I think, yes, I agree with this so much. When I have conflicts, when I have thoughts about the team, I used to just, keep it to myself and not say it, not claim it. That will actually ruin, your chemistry with the team, because you have something in your mind but you don't speak it, you don't speak it out loud. It's just going to be like a rock that's going to be between you and the team. If you get what I'm saying, that metaphor, if you get it. So you want to just present who you truly are, because that's how you're going to work with the team as yourself. It's really hard to act like something, don't just fall for conventional wisdom of oh, you shouldn't go in a contradicting way, or you don't want to go on the opposite side as your team. No, say the things that you're doubting, say the things that you're not feeling good about the team. Even if you get fired, you're just being yourself. It's just becoming the best, and that's all. You might become better, you might go to a better team, but yeah, always stand up for your own thoughts, even if it means being fired. Bill Walsh says it, I says, so it's a really good common, I guess, like common standpoint. Yeah, that's a really good logic, I guess. Really good thing to remember in my career, volleyball career, academic career, my life in school, all these things. Okay, and also the important part about leading like his like last several years is that what was like the turning point of him actually stepping down is that his tank went empty. He was too tired from all these things. So he says that the time to do things to fill up your tank before it's empty is before you actually step down. Is actually before you become too empty. I don't know if that makes sense, but you want to do things to prevent yourself from getting like exhausted completely and just, you know, tired of the sport or the thing you're doing. You want to like fill up your tank. Okay, first he says don't isolate yourself. Don't isolate yourself from trusted mentors. Don't isolate yourself from friends. Don't isolate yourself from the professionals that you respect, that you have relationships with. Don't isolate yourself from the community and stuff. So you want to stay in those like positive, energetic communities and people. Also, delegate abundantly. He says of this when he's so stressful managing everything by himself for the past like 8 years in the team. Every aspect is planned by himself alone. Maybe like majority, I would say. So he's very tired because you want to delegate and you want to use like the talents of your players so that you know you are less stressed as a head coach. That's important. Also, avoid the destructive temptation to define yourself as a person by the one-loss record. Yeah, winning and losing is a record, but also in times like during his first season in the 49ers, it was still a bad team and they still lost pretty badly. But, you know, it was going to lead to something great, and he knew it in his mind. Although he has been struggling and he has been doubting himself consistently, but luckily he made through it. You know, he fought through it. And no matter the one-loss record, he became like one of the best teams in the history during his time, like the 49ers. And yeah, they won Super Bowl championship. But yeah, don't just look at the win-loss records. Focus on the development of yourself and the team as a whole. You need to know that you're going to somewhere that's great, that's better. And also, you want to know when to like fix yourself too. You want to listen to opinions and like do it logically. You don't want to like only focus on your own heroism or desires, selfishness, all of your own irrational goals, emotional goals. No, you want to think logically for the team and listen to opinions and different perspectives and consider people of different reception levels and all these educational backgrounds and stuff. Integrate the whole team as a whole. Okay, it hurts like the devil for 10 days or 2 weeks, and then you bury it and go back to work and look ahead. That is said by Marv Levy, who lost 4 straight Super Bowls as head coach of the Buffalo Bills. But this part, Bill Walsh says, shake it off. Just shake it off sometimes. When you lose, shake it off and come back again. That connects back to consistency, and you know, if you're really loving this thing, you want to do it consistently. Alright. Good and bad are about the same in the NFL, perhaps in corporate America too. You're gone if good is the best you can do. Good just buys you time. Great buys you a little more time, and then you're gone. You just want to keep that in mind because like it's competitive all the times. You sometimes want to be like innovative. You sometimes want to be filling up your tank. But yeah, you're gonna be gone someday because there will be more talents. There might be younger people than you. But yeah, embrace it, and you know, are about the same. Good and bad are about the same. But bad gets you fired like earlier. But yeah, you just want to embrace the process and do the best out of yourself. And you know, if it is actually something you're passionate with, you won't really be affected by, you know, if you're getting out or not. You know, keep on doing that. That might be a bit abstract. And these last pages are really abstract to me personally too. But yeah, that's a really good sentence. you're gonna be gone someday. Depends on what you want to do yourself. What do you want to achieve in this field? What does this field mean to you personally? What does college application mean to me? I want to find a community. I want to find a place where there are more people like me, where I can work together and make connections, and maybe start a business with these people in the future. Also play volleyball. Play volleyball in top schools like NYU, MIT. MIT is my top choice, but I'll try my best to make it. But personally, this process or this journey of trying to get that place will be a heavily marked and memorable, reminiscent memory in my journey of life. That's a bit too over, but you see what I mean? Yeah. Do purposeful things too. Okay. Your team has absorbed and assimilated not just the mechanics of your own center of performance, but the attitudes and beliefs that are central to it. Yeah, you just integrate the center of performance to every aspect of your life, and yeah, becomes so absorbed and assimilated to the mechanics and the beliefs behind your center of performance. That's a really good leadership thing to take note of. You want to show by example, and also just make your team centralize your values. Make your team just act according to their values and centralize the things around it. You get the idea. He also set up an example that was really interesting on his last few pages. He talked about Fujian, the sculptures in Fujian. So the sculptor, he makes a sculpture out of stone. He carves it, but then he leaves it in like a river or a stream or somewhere in the nature, and just let nature, finishes the final touches. When nature finishes the final touches, that work becomes rather transcendent. That work becomes excellent and achieves its maximum potential, because the nature has settled through it, and the nature has naturally carved it. And yeah, he talked about this example with the team. For the last 10 years, 49ers has always, just did things based on his center of performance. And, the results came just throughout the progress of time. Even in his last game, he just said he was reminded of the first few games he fought in the 49ers in the first season, because he instilled his center of performance so deeply, and the nature has done so much things throughout the passage of time. The team is just perfect. And ending with the last sentence or the last paragraph of his book, when I became almost terrified of losing, there were stretches where I found it impossible to truly allow that to happen. As you've seen, there were stretches where I found it impossible to truly allow that to happen. When I became almost terrified of losing, of letting the score take care of itself. So he also said how he cares a bit too much of how the score takes care of itself, rather than the score actually just takes care of itself. He worries too much and puts too much work in it, which drained himself at the end. But ultimately, he says, I got back to it. On that final San Francisco 49er drive, 92 yards to a championship, I was at peace knowing the score, one way or another, would take care of itself, and it did. That was the end of the book. And then there was another part of his son talking about the story of his dad. It was really just, it was sad, but it was also hopeful. He talks about how, before his dad died, he was brave as hell. His son put his arms beside Bill Walsh. His triumphs have been recognized for many years. And also, the last few sentences of the book says that, but its hard-earned leadership lessons remain in place, perhaps more relevant now than ever before. I know he would hope that something in his own experience I shared in this book is of value in your own challenges as a leader. It will mean that once again he was able to do what he loved doing and did so well, and call on teach others how to be as great as they can be. And that's the end of the book. Bro, such a good book. Strongly recommend it. Really important book to my journey of life, and really enjoyed the process of recording it and just fighting through it, staying consistent with it. Finished it. Now I'm gonna start other books, and yeah, I'll update you with when I've decided. Actually, I'm gonna make a list of the books I'm gonna read this summer and share it with you soon. And yeah, I really do want to end this video right now, so I'll see you.